I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Chatterbox, and I'm looking forward to having this discussion with Amanda around the excitement of the accreditation, which we are extremely happy with and wish to obviously leverage and ensure that we make this a successful partnership with the CPD Standards Office.
Hi, I'm Amanda Rosewarne. I'm co-founder and CEO of the CPD Standards Office, and we are delighted to have accredited Chatterbox recently with full CPD accreditation for their training courses and learning activities.
So Amanda, obviously, one of the reasons why we embarked on this journey to successfully be accredited for CPD, it would be really helpful, I think, for the audience to understand what led you to finding and as a founder of the CPD research project itself, and what drove you to go on this journey around accreditation CPD.
Well, it's a long story, but I'll try and keep it short. So my background's in industrial and occupational psychology, and I've always been really passionate about lifelong learning and professional skill development for everybody, regardless of their background, regardless of their educational level. And so some time back, we undertook a research project with a whole range of professional institutes, regulators, employees, and individuals who are expected to do CPD. And a key finding was that the quality of CPD courses that were available at the time, this is about a decade back now, weren't really suitable for CPD purposes. And that's because they weren't relevant or they weren't produced in the right way. And so what became really clear was that we needed to set up a new set of standards for CPD courses or anybody trying to deliver any form of learning activity that was going to be used for professional development purposes. So since then, we've had an interesting, challenging and sort of successful journey with different CPD accreditations dependent on face-to-face or online or event or speaker or coach, etc. And that's the journey we've been on and where we've got to today.
It must have been quite hard to summarize that within about 5 minutes, I'm guessing. I think here's a phrase which I'm sure Amanda's heard before, which is people don't just go to work to earn, they go to work to learn. And yeah, that concept is probably increasing in its importance, probably even more so and accelerated in this unique experience that the whole planet went through with COVID, where everybody had to not only just adjust the way they work, but also adjust the way they learn. When you look at the whole acceleration on digital and the demands and desires for people to learn and further develop skills, plus the importance given now to skills and critical expertise rather than just technical competency. If we look at the marketplace, the importance of professional skill development and lifelong learning is probably even more prevalent now than it was a few years ago as a consequence. So for us, it was the obvious thought, well, okay, we know we're not delivering an academic program, but we are delivering a professional training program. How do you really determine its quality externally? And to me, the only way to really do that is go look for those organizations who have true expertise vis-a-vis what you described earlier on, who can not only provide you with rigor and clarity to your quality of what you're delivering, both from a quality of content perspective, but as importantly, the methods of delivery. Because in a professional setting, in a business setting, the form of delivery has to be extremely good and strong in order to ensure that the time on task for a person who's extremely busy is efficient and effective. So in a work setting, the best method we believe to get some form of external accreditation is through a framework of continuous professional development. Hence why we then approached CPD Standards Office to provide us with this review of our programs. And of course, being a blended language learning program, which is unique globally, for us, we are extremely unique in what we do. We have these magical human beings which are provided with the tools to be able to teach a native language, who come from professional backgrounds but from displaced situations in their life, right? So how do you really ensure a quality of delivery in that space? and ensure its validity can only come through an organization's expertise in understanding what does it take to offer a professional training program, both from a content perspective, but also from a delivery perspective. What does CPD accreditation mean? And I would like to look at that from two perspectives. One is from the stakeholder who invests in programs like ours, which have been accredited by the organization. What does it mean for them from their perspective? And what does it mean from a learner perspective, do you think? What do they gain from the accreditation of a learning program, particularly for something like language learning?
Good question. And I think it relates really nicely to also the point that you just made in terms of the fact that we go to work to learn, and we learn from work now as opposed to for work. So the stakeholders, the providers of the learning provision, and Chatterbox in this particular instance, receive a sort of third-party verification of what they are doing makes sense and has met a sort of third-party benchmark in order to be able to then be delivered as formal professional development. And so we find that providers that go through our framework, that go through our assessment period, find and understand what they need to do in order to deliver a really exceptional learner experience, and also understand the standards to which they have to hold themselves and what they can do to be a professional, consistent, and more importantly, successful and reliable training organisation. So that's the kind of stakeholder perspective. I suppose from the learner's side of things, well, first of all, they've got the reassurance. They can see that you've got a CPD accreditation, that you have been considered by a third party to have met a certain level. But for them personally, once they've undertaken the learning and they've finished the course, and as you said, they've worked with these magical human beings that are part of your community, then they receive a sort of formal professional development certificate, which they can use for further work, whether that be promotion, whether that be applying for a role, whether that be just topping up their lifelong learning. But they receive something that has shown that they have completed a course that has met a set of standards, and therefore they have undertaken CPD. Now, in some areas and some arenas, CPD is mandatory. And so for professionals from those industries, they are receiving the certificates, which is going towards their professional requirements from an institute or a regulator. But in many other cases, individuals are undertaking courses to be better at work, and as we've talked about, to learn from work. So by having that sort of seal of approval and getting that formal certificate piece, and I don't just mean the hard copy itself, but that sort of credential, if you like, it adds another string to their bow, and something that they can then talk about and use as a method, if you like, for moving themselves forward.
The underlying theme behind getting the accreditation for us is two sides. One is it builds confidence in the organization and its people to know that everything we've done to ensure the level of quality of what we deliver is at a standard which is hit a particular benchmark, right? And that benchmark has been achieved externally without any intervention from us by an external organization with a professional background in this space to validate that, yes, we've hit the benchmark as a minimum. What does that really mean? That means it gives us a good stepping stone to further improve even more, but knowing that our trajectory of approach to what we deliver is strong and compelling. So that's the first point. I think that the more relevant point for our audience, and they understand that, yes, we are a social enterprise, we are a profit for good organization, but that isn't the driver behind our ambition. The ambition for us is to deliver high quality language and cultural training programs and be seen as a true business value. And the fact that we're a social enterprise and a profit for good organization just enables them to understand that the choice of provider is fundamentally based around the impact and ROI to what they require from a professional provider of services, with the additional unique value of the fact that we will align to their ambitions from a CSR perspective, from a wanting to give back to society and the social value of what most organizations now increasingly want to pursue. What I find is a lot of organizations can either do one or the other, right? We are taking a highly professional approach, validated for the accreditation, and that's how we want to be perceived, with the additional value of the other items, which are fundamental to our purpose. And therefore, our metric of being able to ensure that we can deliver high quality training through our blended program for our technology, and as importantly and more importantly from the coaches who we wish to save and to save the trajectory of their lives, can only happen if the business value of what we deliver to a client delivers to their needs. And this is a very strong way of validating that through the CPD accreditation. Obviously, CPD accreditation was with a UK entity, a UK organization, and as I understand it, professional development in CPD was, you know, the whole framework around these things were launched and developed in the UK. How does that translate into a global arena and a global setting?
Well, I think it stems from the fact that the UK is the home and history, if you like, of professional bodies and institutes, full stop. And many of our institutes that we have here today were sort of founded back as part of the Industrial Revolution. And what's happened since then is the idea of having a regulator or an institute that looks after a particular profession has basically spread worldwide. So you've got probably about 3,000 professional bodies in the UK, but then across different countries, you've got both UK bodies, such as the CIPD, who have got a sort of regional office, or the country itself has then created professional bodies and regulators, either to protect the public from are you behaving and working to a set of standards and to our code of conduct, but increasingly more about being the voice of that particular profession and helping individuals build their career. And in HR, the main professional body is the CIPD, and they not only have their own CPD policy, so HR professionals must undertake a certain amount of CPD per annum, but that's reflected worldwide. And so there are, no professional, none of us now come to work and think, right, I've got the qualifications I need, I can just, work and I don't need to learn anymore. CPD gives you, the motivation, the confidence, if you like, and the ability to be able to keep progressing all of those little steps. And that's something that globally we accept now.